there's more millionaires and billionaires that are made in down cycles, because also most people sit back and wait. Mm-hmm. The only transgression spiritually you can do is wait. There's no waiting, there's just creating. And whatever you're doing, if you're waiting, you're just creating nothing. You're creating exponentially at all points in time. So right now is a time to create exponentially, because most people are sitting back in fear.
So true. Oh, I feel like I could write a whole pack of inspirational quote cards based on this interview. I'm like, oh, waiting is creating. That's a good one. I'm going to jot that down. I love it. I hope you're good. I'm so excited to bring you this episode today. I've just finished recording it and I just loved this time with our guests. This is honestly my favorite thing about starting this podcast, is the people that I get to connect with, the conversations that we have, and each conversation that I have honestly changes me. I learn so much from it. So today I am introducing you to the incredible Dr. Erin. She's a world-renowned doctor of divinity. How cool is that title? She's also, she's the creator of the E4 trauma method. She's an international best-selling author. She's also won or earned the 2020 Walden Wisdom Award next to Oprah. She's a self-made millionaire, top-rated podcast host and mother. And she was voted by Forbes in the 11 of the most inspirational female entrepreneurs to watch on Instagram. So obviously when I heard that, I knew that I had to get her on the podcast, because I knew that you need to hear about this woman. So I loved our conversation. We dived into all things trauma, your subconscious, your spiritual practices, how to set goals and align yourself with your purpose, and just really start 2023 on your path and, living the life that you are truly meant to live. And I think it's such a powerful place to be in, and it really is where we should all be striving to get to. I know so many of you are feeling stuck at the moment. I know so many of you are feeling like you're just going around in circles in the same habits, and we dive into all of this. So I know you're going to love this episode. If you love it, take a screenshot, tag me at Carly Myers Life and at Girls Building Empires. I would love to know your takeaways from it. Obviously going to follow Dr. Erin as well. She's incredible. And I just can't wait to hear what you think about it. So if you aren't already subscribed to the podcast or subscribed to the YouTube channel, make sure you hit subscribe so that you never miss one of our episodes. We have so many amazing ones coming out, and it's such an exciting year for the Made for More podcast. And I can't wait for you to be a part of it. Bye. Hi, Dr. Erin. How are you doing?
Hi, sweetheart. I'm fantastic. Thank you for having me. Super excited to dive into a powerful conversation with you.
I'm so excited too. Can I first just comment on your voice, first of all, and say how calming it is? I feel like when I listen to you, I feel a sigh of
Yes, it's part of my design. I have a very powerful, it can be a blessing and a curse, because it actually cuts through all energy. Mm-hmm. So it can actually really offend people as well. So it's one of my strengths and weaknesses. Mm-hmm.
I feel like you're a mum, aren't you?
I am. I have a 27-year-old son.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. I feel like if you were my mum and you told me off, I feel like that would cut deep. Mm-hmm. My mum's got that voice as well. My mum, when she would tell me off, I'd be like, oh, she's got that voice. Yeah. She means it.
Yeah. So love you. Your pink. So beautiful.
Oh, thank you so much. If anyone is watching on YouTube, I'm all about the pink today. I got pink eyeshadow, pink lips, pink jumper. I've actually got a thermal vest on underneath this. It's so cold. I literally became a pensioner overnight, and I just went and bought thermals.
Well, it's great branding. You got a whole makeup matches the sweater, that matches the background, that matches all of it. It's really good,
isn't it? You're in Florida, so you're not wearing a thermal vest today, are you? No,
I haven't been anywhere below 70 degrees in over a year, and I don't plan on it.
It's the dream. Don't come anywhere near England, then stay away. So I'm so excited to speak to you, because I've been actually following you now for over a year. And I just love your Instagram. I love everything you post. You always seem to hit the spot for me, definitely. But I come to know you at the point in your career where you're mega successful and you've got it all figured out and it all seems to be absolutely flying. But I know that probably wasn't how it all started. So I would love you to take us back, tell us, how you got here, what the journey has been like to get to where you are today.
Sure. First, I wanted to say that it's not all glamorous today by any sort whatsoever. I'm a spiritual being human, and have chapters and days that are not blissful and very dark, and then times that are absolutely in flow state and absolutely incredible. So I just want to make that clear, that the facade of Instagram is not real. Mm-hmm. And that everyone has those moments. So yes, but I would be honored to take you back to the journey, because I would imagine for most people that are listening right now, I know that there is a divine calling inside of each and every one of you. I know there's something that there is an intuitive factor of you knowing that there's a gift and prosperity and abundance and a life that you're designed to live. And I knew that as well. So I'm actually from a divorced family. I grew up in the hills of Santa Barbara. I was actually in a commune growing up. It was very dysfunctional. The parents did a lot of drugs and alcohol. I had no rules and regulations. My father went off and had another family. And so we ran, in the mountains barefoot as children, playing fantasy like all children do. I ended up being date raped in high school, had bulimia from 17 to 20. And I thought, if I just get married, all my problems will be solved. So I got married at the age of 21. And I had a term stillborn at the age of 22, which sent me on a spiritual track. Oh, we've got some plans from Nicola Pigeon just texting. So what happened was, I knew that I wanted to have money when I grew up, because there was a time when it was my sister's birthday. I think I was about 8 years old. And the day that my mother was going to take her ice skating for her birthday with all of us. And the day of her birthday, she came to me and she said, "You can't go. I don't have enough money to take more than your sister's two friends and her. So you're going to have to stay back today." And I remember being absolutely hysterical, crying. As we know, is trauma. A traumatic incident is not what happens to you, it's what happens within you. And what happened is, I decided in that day that I would have money when I grew up, which is a good thing and a bad thing, because we think of trauma of having limited beliefs, but oftentimes trauma is what actually has people have a lot of success as well, quote success. And so as I grew up, I actually waited tables through high school. And I began to ask myself, what can I do? And when I had my stillborn at 22, I had my son, who's now 27. I got pregnant a month to the day later. And I was like, okay, here I am, a mom. And how am I I knew there was this part of me that was going to be really wealthy. I just knew it inside. It was a commitment I had inside. And so I began to go on my spiritual track from having the stillborn son. And I began to, I had a double life. I began to do all my spiritual work on one side, and I began to save money. I waited tables, actually fixed up like slum homes, and I began to save money. And I actually became a self-made millionaire and I wouldn't even eat out. I wouldn't spend any money. And I saved $1 million, which is crazy. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I realized the day I actually became a millionaire, because I realized on paper I was technically a millionaire, and I realized that I felt more scarce than I'd ever felt. So money did not equate to being prosperous. And so what I decided in that moment, because I had done all my spiritual work and I was doing it all the time as much as possible, because as I began to have more and more money and passive income, I actually had more and more time. So I put all my time and effort into my conscious development and my spiritual work. And so I decided that I was going to surrender everything, because all I cared about was my spiritual work. And so I dove deeply into more and more spiritual work, not even thinking it'd be a career. I didn't even think it'd be a career. I just was obsessed with it. And then over time, I began to work with huge celebrities. I actually worked with Whitney Houston and her family, which I actually left that job because it was so corrupt, because there were so many like sick people around trying to keep her sick and her family sick with drugs and things. So I ended up working with some CEOs, having some miscellaneous clients. And then, just like many people, when they say, "Hey, what do I really want?" And I was like, I want to work with people, specifically mostly women, that want to learn this work and want to do their inner healing and do it as a career, so that my efforts would create other leaders that would take the work out themselves, so that my legacy would be exponential in it. So today I work, of course, with, thousands of women across the globe, developing them in processes, metaphysics, spiritual processes, the E4 trauma method that I developed that got me the 2020 Walden Wisdom Award next to Oprah Winfrey. And we certify and accreditate them. We have a few men in the program, and basically just leaving a legacy of knowing that we are spiritual beings. We have 10 trillion cells, and our cells and our DNA could go out to the sun back 61 times, that we are infinite divine beings, and that we are here to restore the truth of who we are and come back to a spiritual nature. And that's why the whole world is crumbling down, because the old ways don't work anymore.
Wow. I was not expecting that.
Long-winded, sorry.
No, it was great. No, I love it. I literally got my cup of tea in the middle of it. I was like, I'm so engrossed in listening to you. That's incredible. And that is what is so clear to see, is that this is a full soul mission that you have. Like, there is no talk about here, like, I just wanted to make like 6 figures, I just wanted to do this. Like, your whole purpose is so clear to see. It's about spreading this, this spiritual energy and people and helping people see that other way. And I know that for so many people, I'm interested in your talking a little bit more about your trauma method, because I know for so many people, they have experienced trauma. They've experienced really hard times. Maybe they don't even really understand yet that it is trauma, but they have experienced these things, and carrying that and not understanding how to process that is the thing that's massively holding them back from stepping into this new version of themselves. So what does that look like? So, going back to when you were 22, you had your stillborn, and you said that you went onto this, you started diving into spirituality. What does that look like? How do you do that?
So what happened is I was one of those people that always was a seeker. Like, I just knew there was something more. The first day I came home from elementary school, my mom said, I asked, how old do you have to be to quit school? Like, I always had that entrepreneur spirit. I was like, I don't want to do it that way. Right. So I began to dive into, some of the work before The Secret came out. It was a long time before that. I'm a bit older than probably most of your viewers here. And if you watch The Secret was great. It was like the power of mind and getting into manifestation, all this stuff. But there was a missing piece, because just like most of us, we would make a vision board, and some of the things would manifest. And then some of the things we would put on our vision board wouldn't manifest at all. So it's like, well, does this work or does this not work? Mm-hmm. And even the things that we'd manifest, we'd still feel maybe a little bit empty inside. So I believe there's a missing piece. There's a big missing piece to it. And what it is it's actually the subconscious, and how trauma tags the epigenetics and actually has a self-fulfilling prophecy, the energetics going into our lives. So, for example, for most people, they go, well, I might not even have trauma. So what is trauma? Trauma is not what happens to you. Trauma is what happens within you. So let's just take, for example, let's just pretend that you were bullied on the jungle gym and someone just looked at you cross-eyed. You weren't hit. You weren't in a car accident. You weren't whatever. But the moment that kid looked at you cross-eyed, you placed a meaning, and the actual meaning created a high frequency of emotions within you. And in that high frequency of emotions, we decide something. I'm not enough. Something's wrong with me. I'm afraid of people, whatever it is. I don't want to live, right? Whatever the extreme of that, we call it a command. And this actual command is a lie. And the command actually divides, because we live in a mental universe. It divides consciousness, and it actually tags the DNA. So this is obviously, all of us have trauma, and all limited beliefs come from mind. So now science has actually proven that we actually can link our DNA 14 generations back. So obviously it's before that, but so all emotions are playing out in our lives. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So say, for example, for me, when I was 9 months old, my parents went off to a wedding in Europe. They left me with my mother's mother for 3 weeks while they went off to Europe. No big deal. They thought, oh, that's the best thing to do. But what happened was, here I was, a little girl in a crib crying for her mommy, and had trauma. And that trauma has played out in my life of almost like of not being able to really connect. Okay. So most entrepreneurs, when they come to me, right? So someone out there like, what does this mean and how does it relate to me? You may say, hey, I want to make 5 figures. I want to make 6 figures. I want to make 7 figures. But if you don't believe and you have a self-fulfilling prophecy of something's not right with me or I'm not enough, this energetic is going to stop you from being able to even have money. It's going to stop you from being able to receive clients. It's going to stop you from this. So when I'm working with top CEOs or women in particular that want to make their first 5 figures or 6 figures, we have to deal with the subconscious traumas. And so the E4 trauma method is a process that goes into regression, goes into the actual event, neutralizes it, and spots the commands, and actually frees the consciousness of those myelinations on the DNA so that the consciousness expands and that you're able to see more possibility and you're not self-sabotaging. So that's important. Like, it is imperative, no matter who I'm working with, trauma is the core work of all manifestation, all prosperity, all good relationships, everything.
It's so true. And I love that you said about like the tiny things that cause trauma. Like you say, we always think about it being a car crash or this big life event, but it is the tiny things. And I caught myself the other day when I'm hoovering, right? I hate hoovering. I hate doing housework. I was hoovering, and whenever I hoover, I get really...
I thought you meant Uber, like the car.
Hoovering, no, hoovering. You know, like, do you say vacuum?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So when I'm vacuuming, I don't know what it is. Obviously, I'm switching off and I just get really resentful about the fact that I'm vacuuming. I'm so anti-housewife. I really don't like it. Anyway, I start thinking about all these like things that have happened in my life. It all stirs up. And it's always these tiny conversations that seem to pop up. Like when I was in the playground in school, or when that person said something to me. It's so weird that actually when I quiet my brain, these tiny conversations come up, and it really does play out in later life. And I think when you start a business and you start doing the work and doing personal development and things like that, all of it starts getting stirred up, doesn't it? Which is why when you first start a business, it can often feel so uncomfortable and just like you're being torn open almost.
There's 2 reasons why people don't have success in their business. One is either obviously limited beliefs that they're just not going to be able to have success. And 2 is that it's inauthentic. So you can work and hustle and do whatever and be in a field that can make a lot of money, but you'll end up getting burnt out or you'll self-sabotage it regardless. So it's just really simple. We're here to live the truth, period. And we have to align to that. And until we do that, we may have success even monetarily, but we'll be miserable. Hence, watching Stephen, Twitch boss, just take it by suicide. This is one of the biggest blessings in the world right now for people to realize it doesn't matter if you have 3.5 million followers on Instagram, have a TV show, have a beautiful family, that there's something that we are spiritual beings here in a masterclass, and that we're here to really, really fulfill upon our spiritual connection more than anything.
Yeah, totally. And I definitely agree with just living and pursuing a life which is true to you. And I want to talk about goal setting, because I've heard you talk a lot about goal setting and spiritual goal setting and soul goal setting. And what I've been speaking to my community about this week is saying, like, set the goals, but make sure that they're your goals. Make sure that you're not doing something because you think, oh, this will impress someone, or someone thinks that I should do this, or this will look good. Make sure you actually want to do the thing that you're striving for. So the reason I want to talk to you about goal setting is because I said to you before, I can get really caught up in the very actionable, set your goals, this is what you need to do, boom, boom, boom. And I feel for myself personally, I probably lost a bit of my spiritual awareness. And when I really tune into it, I know that I'm really powerful, but I feel like I've lost that a little bit. So I would love for 2023 to set some good spiritual goals. What does that look like?
Love this. So we teach a little bit different. Most of manifestation out there is actually really quite a sick world. Hey, I want to have a jet and I want to have a house and I want this partner. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. We love the material and the spiritual. It's all one thing going on. But manifestation is you're the manifestation. Manifestation is not about getting anything out there. In fact, the moment that we place our power external to ourselves is the extent to which we'll be disempowered. So manifestation is all about your embodiment. So the only thing we really ever set as goals is to be the embodiment of prosperity, be the embodiment of love. And everything else is the vibrational match. Everything else is the mental equivalent, right? So say that we want to experience, having an impact in the world. The only way that we're ever going to experience that if we are fully impacted and fully empowered within ourselves. Mm-hmm. So we don't necessarily set goals of the external world. We set goals of who we desire to be in our embodiment. It's fine to have a car or not, but if we have attachment to that car, then it's not the game. Mm-hmm. It's the game. So it's a real shift of realizing that nothing out there is ever going to fulfill us. It's impossible. No status, no amount of money, no amount of the house and the car and the this and that, whatever. So knowing that we're here to produce, we're the highest product. The highest product to produce in your business is you. You're the product. You're the embodiment. You're love. You want love, you've got to give love. You want vitality, you've got to give. You want value and money, you've got to give value, right? You want experience. You can be in the worst place in the world, but you can bring the experience to that world, or you can be in a jet and be miserable. So we don't set goals out there. It's against the practice.
So as you're coming into 2023, how are you preparing yourself for the best year yet, or how are you setting yourself up?
Exactly how. I'm following what I love. And what I love more than anything, what lights me up is pretty much to expand my consciousness. So what I'm actually planning out, of course, is expanding consciousness and helping other people expand consciousness and actually expanding my own consciousness. So for example, I tracked down the best of the best in the world. So one thing I'm doing is early January, I'm actually going to be the world's first pioneer in working with the best stem cell expert in the world. They've actually created a laser that has been able to awaken the smallest stem cells ever. They've done 5,000 different processes on people. They've regenerated people that can't walk. They've reversed Alzheimer's. They've done all kinds of things. And I'm going to be the world's first person that does it just on my pineal gland.
Really?
Yes. So this is what lights me up, is to be around and advance consciousness. So I basically pick and choose the highest consciousness human beings. I'm actually hosting an event with Greg Braden, Bruce Lipton, Marianne Williamson, a bunch of the best icons in January. I'll be hosting the entire event. It's a 4-day event. So what lights me up is fully expanding consciousness. So it's not about, let me see if I can get the status from hosting that, or let me see if I can, write a book out of this. That's fine. That will all come. But what I love is the experience of my spiritual development. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to give myself fully to life, and life has to give itself fully to me exponentially.
Oh, I love that. I've definitely started to feel that shift myself as well, and just leaning more into what makes me happy and what feels good. And then you end up getting everything that you want, don't you? And I'm also consciously connecting with amazing people, hence why you're on my podcast today.
my what lights me up is my soul-based entrepreneur girlfriends. What lights me up is dancing. What lights me up is seeing the water, right? So whatever it is that lights me up, that my soul sings, that's my only job. Mm-hmm. That's my only job. And when that happens, everything flows. Like I get in stuck patterns just like everybody. Mm-hmm. Like everybody gets in stuck pattern or flow pattern. And our job is to get back into that flow pattern where everything is serendipitous. Things just line up. The phone rings. People want to work with you. Like you can't plan out that. How can you plan out, the best? Because if I say, hey, I want to get 10 new clients, like that is absolutely opposite of how we manifest.
Yeah. And you just never know you genuinely never know what's going to come up. Like at the beginning of this year, I had no idea I'd be taking over Girls Building Empires. That was not on the cards. That was not on my little notebook that I wrote in December 2021.
And you were having these goals, you'd miss that whole opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. It's so true. I'm glad you spoke about stuck and stuck patterns, because I have been connecting with a lot of my community this week and just checking in and saying, how are you doing? How are you feeling? Where are you at? blah, blah, blah. And something I'm hearing so much is I'm stuck, I keep procrastinating. And it's that time of year anyway, where normal life gets heightened because everything else gets dumped on your plate. But how does someone get out of that place of stuck? And for a lot of people, they've been in this place many, many times.
A pattern interrupt. So we're energetic beings. We're the backing of all energy, and we're in this computer. It's literally a computer, this body. And so what we have to do is we have to reset the system. Just like if your computer got a spinning ball and it got stuck, right? You've got to actually reboot it. You've got to close down the tabs, right? Complete the cycles. So you want to do that trauma work to be able to close down all the things that might be getting you stuck as well. And you want to do all the completing of cycles, do your amends, do whatever it is. But really and truly, you need a reset. So, the best thing is to put yourself in a new environment. So if you can even if you don't have a lot of money, you can actually go and just go on a little road trip, go away for a couple of days, whatever it is. You've got a pattern interrupt, because we literally respond to our environment. But Bruce Lipton was one of the geniuses that realized that we choose where we put ourselves in, and we can actually change our DNA. We can change our genetics. We can change everything by the environment that we put ourselves into and where we consciously choose to embody.
It's so true. And being aware of how you feel in different environments as well, isn't it? You can be moving around and not really understanding how different environments affect you. But we were both saying that we were in Barbados recently. We were there at the same time. And I felt different there. Did you? I just felt calm.
I love at night, I can hear the crickets. So for me, but it depends on the personality type. Everyone needs to know their own, human design and understand what works for them. But we're energetics. I mean, we literally now Harvard just downloaded 70 billion times an ebook onto our DNA. Like, we literally are a computer. So you have to understand this is energetics. And when you're having a phone around you all day long, you're having computer around you, and you're having a stressful environment that's going to impact you. So we really want to get tapped into nature. We want to get tapped into high frequency. We want to get tapped in so that our vessel is able to work at its highest, right? So the food we're putting in, whatever, but it all begins in mind, and it is a decision. And trust me, I know it. I was in a very stuck pattern. The last 6 months, I got into a cycle where I was like, whoa, this is intense. But always when we're patterns, the day is a pattern, it's all a cycle. So when you're going to go into that really hard stuck cycle, the next cycle is a big flow state. So just know this too changes, and there's a lesson that you need to learn. We're in a master class called life. So the stuck patterns serve in great ways. It's not like you can't have the good without the bad. It's impossible. So the light and the dark and everything. So you have to trust. You have to trust and know that there is a lesson coming out of this, and that you need to go through that lesson as long as you need to go through that lesson for the next flow state. It's just part of the cycle.
So true. I love that you describe it as a masterclass of life. It is so true. I always say every day is a school day, because there is so much coming at you. But actually, when you look back on it retrospectively, you're so grateful for those times, even though at the time it was so painful. I'm sure if you look back now, you're grateful for the traumas that you experienced as a child and when you were 22, and however painful it was at the time. It's powerful, right? Isn't it?
How do I get a client? How do I get money? I need to get money. I need to get money, right? Because our whole culture is so built around that. And the blessing is that you haven't gotten a client. The blessing is that your business hasn't worked, because this is what's demanding you to embody the mindset, the skill set. And I think if people just shifted and said, hey, this is a master class that I'm in. How do I become the best at my mindset? How do I become the best at my business skill set? How do I become the best at my friendship and really developing myself and my character and who I am? This is a mastery, and we're finding this. So before the pandemic, we'd have women would come in like, let me just make money. I just got to make money, right? And now what we're seeing people say, hey, I got to figure this life out. Like everybody, maybe people aren't suicidal, but let me tell you, everybody's questioned life. What are we doing here? What is the meaning of this? What's really going on? So when we have something like these pandemics going on, it shifts our value system back into what really matters, which is, why are we here? How do we actually get connected and love? How do we actually make a difference in love and do what we love to do? These are the core things that we should be asking that are going to have us go, this isn't let me help you make 6 figures in the next 30 days. This is a life-changing work that needs to be done so that we actually can master our emotions, master our true purpose and calling here. Mm-hmm. And, I just want to say thank you for you because, by you asking that yourself and developing this platform, you're helping so many. And that's how it works. We're here all together. It's not a one show. It's all together.
Yeah, definitely. We just have to do the work on ourselves, don't we? And then that spreads onto other people. But I'm so glad that people are asking that question to you now instead of how can I make more money? Because it's a powerful question. If we are all living, I always think that you just have to have that purpose. And that's why it stood out to me so much when you were speaking, when I heard your purpose. I think we all have to have a purpose. And that's what makes us truly fulfilled in life, isn't it? That should be that's the mission.
And people are like, well, what's my purpose? Your purpose is already written in your heart. Your purpose, actually, there's a formula for it that absolutely works. And it is your triumph plus your passions plus your skill set. It's a formula. So your triumph has to come through your trauma. So you can't ever know your true purpose because all of our purpose is one thing. Our purpose is to our soul. Our soul is our purpose. We are here to clear out our soul. We're here to clear out those energetics at a subconscious level. We're here to release the limited beliefs. That's all of our first soul's purpose. Once we do the soul's cleaning out, then our real soul's purpose is born, which is whatever is the hardest thing you've ever been through. And not just this lifetime, but all the memory that lives in your DNA, whether you want to call it past lives or not. And so your purpose is born out of completing that for the world. If you're somebody that's gone through a lot of trauma and say you dealt with domestic violence, then you're here to help others that have gone through that same thing. Mm-hmm. Or whether it be, you went through eating disorder, or whether it be that you went through, heartbreak, or you're abandoned as a baby, right? So whatever that is, you're here to complete that for humanity because you're one with everyone. And then your passion is this. If you won $100 million today, what would you be doing if money was of no object? And that's what you're here to do. You're here to do that. And your skill set is something that's in your design, your human design, and what your mastery of your specific archetype and what that is. And so when you marry those all together, you become somebody that has the potential of becoming a world-renowned expert in the realm of, right? Mm-hmm. So people go, well, how can I be a coach if there's so many coaches out there? Or how can I do this when other people have built blogs? Because your message is going to be so specific that's a niche. And there's 8 billion people on this planet. And when you have a niche, the riches are in the niches, right? So you always will have enough money. Abundant amount of money, but you've got to get as specific as whatever it is that you went through.
Oh, I love that you said that because I fully agree. There is someone out there. I always think there's someone out there that is so desperate to hear your specific message. Like they're hearing all the other people. And yes, it's it's kind of hitting the spot. But there is someone that's like, just speak to me, tell me what I need to know. And there is so much beauty in our individuality, isn't there? And that's what I would love people to just get to the place of thinking, I'm totally fine as me. And there is someone waiting literally for me. I'm so glad you said that. And the fact that the day and the world that we live in today, when you find what your passion is and you find what most excites you and most lights you up, you can build a business around that. Like there are so many tools available that you can actually create an entire career based around your passions. How cool is that?
Amazing. Well, that's the beauty of the internet now, because say you're into, helping developed cats do acrobats, right? You may not have very many people in your one little city, but over the course of the globe, you probably have thousands of people that would want to do that and learn from you, right? So that's this World Wide Web, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's so exciting. Everyone's so doom and gloom about this time that we're in right now, but I just think there's so much opportunity. We've never seen a world like this before.
There's more millionaires and billionaires that are made in down cycles because also most people sit back and wait. Mm-hmm. The only transgression spiritually you can do is wait. There's no waiting, there's just creating. And whatever you're doing, if you're waiting, you're just creating nothing. You're creating exponentially all points in time. So right now is a time to create exponentially because most people are sitting back in fear.
So true. Oh, I feel like I could like write a whole pack of inspirational quote cards based on this interview. I'm like, oh, waiting is creating. That's a good one. I'm going to jot that down. I love it. So I would just love to really quickly talk about your book, because I love that you've made your coaching and your teachings accessible to everyone. It released on the 11th of the 11th, didn't it? 22.
Yes.
Very, very cool. Tell us about it.
It's my second book, and it is Spiritual Awakening. It's a year of universal law. So it's 52 universal laws. That's distinctions of universal law. And it's really a gateway to understand actually the creative process, or how you manifest. Universal laws are like this. It's how we manifest. So the truth is, from the top is pure consciousness, and pure consciousness comes through your individualized soul. And in the individualized soul is what we call the subconscious or subjective mind. And that's one with universal law. So it's kind of like this. Imagine that there is the water that goes through the spigot, right? In the sink, right? You turn on the faucet and the water comes out. And every once in a while, there's a bunch of little granules that will go in that. And all of a sudden you'll get drips of water instead of the water just flowing out of the faucet. So it's kind of like that. We have an infinite intelligence streaming through us, the divine within us. But to the extent to which we have limited belief, traumas, and all that in the subconscious mind, we'll only experience very little scarcity. We'll have little in our life, we'll have lack, all that. So the book is really about understanding and having distinctions to have you align with universal law. So it doesn't teach you the clearing out, because that's all the E4 trauma, but it's going to help you align. So for example, the law of growth. So there's a law of growth that means like this. Today, you could decide to be an entrepreneur. Okay. You can decide it's done. I've decided I am going to be a totally abundant entrepreneur. But there's going to be a law of aligning to those mindset and skill set. So it's like a dancer. If you decide to be a ballerina, it's going to take you time to have the muscle memory of the rudiments of it. So we understand that you can decide already, it's already done to mind, but it's going to take you some law of growth. Another law is the law of supply and demand. Okay. There's a runner. When a runner runs, they hit a wall. It's called the runner's wall. And all of a sudden, the runner gets a second wind, and it's an exponential amount of energy. It's actually going to the second system of the body. And this is the demand. The runner has to supply the demand. Same thing with the fifth finger, right? It had to be demanded. Everything that has evolved had to be demanded in mind for us to grow exponentially. So the book really is 52 distinctions for you to embody each week, for you to understand, man, I'm not putting enough demand on my non-negotiable for 2023, right? My non-negotiable is that I absolutely am only staying in my genius. I'm not doing any of the parts of my business that are not my genius. This is a non-negotiable for me. So I had to supply that demand for myself to say, this is enough. I'm not doing a $25 an hour job anymore, the miscellaneous things. I have to expand my team, right? So it goes through all the different aspects of what it takes for you to align to truth so that you can manifest exponentially in your life. It's really good. We go through also through the community, through the podcast. We always talk about the new law each week.
Oh, I love that. I definitely want to dive into that, because I think so much of the law of attraction and spiritual work, so many people are like, but how? How does it work? And I feel like if you get that piece and you start to understand it more, that's how you can really, embody it and practice it more, isn't it? So I'm so excited to.
There's kind of levels of it, right? So if you're like, okay, I want to do my spiritual work, where do I begin? You've got to do the soul work. You've got to clear out the soul. So I highly recommend E4 Trauma Method is profound for all that, to really release all that. Okay. That taps in also with spiritual practice of being able to do meditation and all that, being able to do all the work. But you also want to understand the education and understand how the mind works, understanding universal law. So I believe if you have understanding, you do trauma work, you understand universal law, and you have a spiritual practice, those things, if you do all three of those things, you'll be in the 1%er of being truly woke. If they're not woke, we don't want awaken. A different genre.
Very, very different. Well, you've got me in the 1%. That the competitive side of me is like, I want to be in the 1%. So I could talk to you all day, but I've got some quick fire questions I would just love to ask you, which I ask all my guests, if that's okay. So finish my sentence. Happiness is?
It's just an emotion. It's not real.
Success is?
Whatever you decide it is. You're successful just by being alive.
Yes, love that. What is a book or a podcast that's changed your life?
Science of Mind. It's a big book. I don't know if I'd recommend for people to read it, but Science of Mind is one of the biggest books that has changed my life.
That sounds like my worst nightmare because I like short chapters and big font. Is it big font?
No, you wouldn't. I wouldn't think most people would enjoy it.
Okay. Okay. And then lastly, what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
I've had a few really incredible mentors in my life, and advice. Well, mentors for me don't give advice. I don't believe in giving advice, but I would say they've taught me principles of the universe. So one principle that I would never forget a mentor told me was the universe has to agree with you 100%. However you think it is, however you say it is. And so understanding that the universe just is reflecting back what you believe, your identity, the self-contemplation of yourself, right? So if I consider myself to be anything other than the I am, I actually set the polarity of the universe into motion. So my identity creates my beliefs, which create my thoughts, which create my feelings and my emotions and the circumstances of my life. So I would say that's the best. I don't know if they'd say advice, but truth.
No, but that's good. But I think that it's not always necessarily about advice. Advice is about learnings, isn't it? And I think the best mentors are the ones that prod and poke you and get out of you what's already in there. So I agree. I love that. Thank you so much. Where can everyone find you and find all things Dr. Erin?
Yeah. So it's Dr. Erin, which is DR and then ERIN. Anywhere you can just Google and cross all board. All social media is drerin.tv. So DRERIN.tv. I do have a podcast, Dr. Erin, and I'd love to, have you on there as well. It'd be amazing to dive deep into some stuff because we do have a lot of soul-based entrepreneurs that listen for sure. Mm-hmm. You can find my books. Awakening is my first book, which is amazing and has 40-day, audios and stuff that come with it. And the Spiritual Awakening Year of Universal Law. And then I also have cards that just came out with it as well. So it's Spiritual Awakening, Universal Law cards. And so it'd be lovely to know all of you listening in.
I love it. Thank you so much. I've absolutely loved chatting to you. I've learned so much and I feel calm. I feel like I've just had a full session.
Oh yeah. And my other website, of course, the school and community is Soulciety, which is SOULCIETE. And that's where we have all the accreditations and courses, and you get accredited in spiritual psychology, practitioner and coaching and E4 trauma method and things like that. Mm-hmm.
Amazing. I know my audience will get so much from this and they will be so interested in everything you do. And I'm just so grateful for your time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Hey, just a quickie. If you loved this episode, which I'm sure that you did, it would mean so much to me if you would head over to iTunes or Spotify or wherever you listen to this and leave me a 5-star review. It means so much and it does make, honestly, such a massive difference to how we're able to grow this podcast. And also make sure that you subscribe as well. If you hit that subscribe button, you'll never miss one of our episodes. Share this with anyone else that you think will find it valuable. And I so appreciate all of your support. Thanks so much. Bye.